So tell me about Mr. Greenstein.
Bob Greenstein, the head of the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, has retired.
Okay.
I have not been a fan.
I hope he enjoys a happy retirement.
Sure. I'm sure he's a pleasant fellow. I've never met him, but people seem to like him. But I have found him to be very not good policy-wise. And I don't know if this is acceptable, if I'm supposed to say these sorts of things. I don't know. To my mind, you're you're head of a major organization. Everyone is celebrating you as being like a major power player in DC. You're a political figure. You should be criticizable. That's my view. I don't, okay? And I have not been much a fan of Mr. Greenstein for many years. And I actually, at one point, wrote an article about Robert Greenstein that got pitched and accepted at a major lefty, sort of lib left policy journal. I kind of, soft pedaled it a little bit in the pitch, but I wrote it up and then they wouldn't publish it. So this is apparently something you're not, this is an off.
Usually when people are retiring or they've passed away.
It was 3 years ago when I tried to write this piece.
Okay.
All right. We can't have this. What do you mean? I'm criticizing. Anyways, he's the head of Center on Budget Policy Priorities. He's basically been like the de facto head of Democratic welfare policy since 1977.
Okay.
And let me just put it this way. That has not been a good period for U.S. welfare policy. Like this huge outpouring of support, like every major policy has a tweet, he was so great and so on. It's like this dude has, through this nonprofit setup in which their nonprofit gets some $40+ million a year. It seems like huge staff, big player. Like this is not a serious thing. Like if you go on the Hill or you try to talk to people about, I got this idea for like a welfare thing I want to do. Mm-hmm. I swear to God, a third of the time they'll be like, you should talk to Bob. Could you run this by Bob? We need to, somehow he's the gatekeeper for this sort of thing. Okay. And I don't know why this happens. Who's this guy? He's not been elected. But he had bad policy opinions. He was against universal programs. Mm-hmm. He was for work-based programs, and he had this whole theory that was like, in America, you have to work. There's people put a high emphasis on working and so on. And so he was an architect of this sort of bad welfare, heavily means tested, a lot of work aspects of it. And when you'd push these people on it, his position, it seems to be, was like, well, this is the only thing we can get. This is it. There is no alternative.
We got to take what we can get.
There is no alternative. This is what it's like, man, I don't know. Other countries, etc. And so not only would he push really weak policy, but he would publicly come out against much better policy. And it was so irritating and frustrating to be in that position, because he's Bob Greenstein, his thing gets a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And it's one of these sort of circular things that happens in the think tank world, especially, that is so frustrating, which is you can look at his longevity and you can think two things about it, right? You can look at it and be like, this man, he has so much experience. His finger's on the pulse. He knows. He's a guru. He's an expert. He's got the wisdom. He's the welfare. He knows it. Who are you? You're an upstart. You're a whatever. This guy really knows it.
Yeah.
Okay? And so you can use his longevity to justify his political views. Say those must be good political views, because they come out of experience and knowledge.
Yep.
Or, as I think is far more accurate, you can flip it on its head and say his longevity is due to his political views.
causation runs the other way.
Exactly. And I don't think that someone like that is a sellout. I think someone like that genuinely holds those views. And then those views in a marketplace, a literal marketplace where you're competing for fundraising dollars, those are views that funders want to fund.
They sell well.
Yes. Those are good views to sell to the kind of people who buy policy in D.C.
That's unsettling.
That's the explanation for the longevity, because there are plenty of people in this world who are just as knowledgeable, have just as much sort of expertise, and are just as smart and capable with numbers and statistics and all the rest of it, who have different views about how to develop the U.S. welfare state. Those views will not attract $40 million a year of donations. They will not get money from Walmart, which CBP takes money from, or any of these other ghoulish entities. You don't get money for that.
Right.
And so,
no one's going to pay someone to propose taxing them more.
Yes, no one's going to propose a thing that's like, oh, let's completely just wreck, Walmart's position and situation.
Yeah.
Let's expropriate half of the Walton family's wealth. That's just not going to be a position that you're going to get money for. But you know what they will? They'll help you if you just want to sort of moderately expand food stamps.
Right.
That'd be good. Hey, that could help their workers a little bit, and and more money for them because poor people can go to Walmart and spend food stamps. That's good. That's okay. Right. Do not challenge the Walton wealth.
Right.
Do not raise taxes significantly.
Right.
And do not make it more difficult for them to manage their workforce through, unionization.
Right.
CBPP never talks about unionization. Never talks about, anything that would be...
Like Bernie was like, we're going to crush right to work.
Yeah, they don't do that. The Waltons will give money to CBPP. They won't give money to EPI.
Right.
Which is the
EPI
the union,
kicks ass for the working class.
The union and minimum wage, think tank. And so... it's just very, very frustrating.
Well, you have to keep in mind that policy, is a racket in a
it is.
very, very
it is a market.
Way.
It has to be understood as a market. There's a think tank market that is not unlike any other market. There's a certain amount of spend that goes into that market, as they say, right? We could quantify the size of the market by adding up the revenues of all the major think tanks. And, it's probably in the, low single-digit billions.
Yeah.
AEI gets 100 million by itself, so you start adding it up from there, and it's probably in the single-digit billions market, and the think tanks are out there competing for that money, and that doesn't mean they're necessarily cynical, but that either they change their views to get the money, or the people who have those views authentically win the competition for the money anyways. And you got to keep that in mind. Otherwise, you get in this goofy situation in which the people who win the race for the dollars and win the race for the influence end up circularly justifying their opinions because they have done that.
Right.
And you don't give fair hearing to people who maybe can't attract that kind of money because they have views that don't attract that kind of money.
Can't attract that kind of money for all the right reasons.
And there was a really hilarious... This is, I think, to encapsulate what Bob Greenstein is about. Remember, 1977 to present. Mm-hmm. That is his... I was the head of DIM welfare between that period.
During the collapse of DIM welfare.
Imagine this. That's my... it's like being like the AFL-CIO head of the last 20 years or whatever. Maybe you could be like, look, it's not my fault. But you probably don't brag about that.
Yeah, well, no, I presided over the total destruction. I presided over the
collapse of the labor movement and the complete defanging of any kind of robust American welfare statism. But here's, I think, a beautiful encapsulation of the stuff that people of the sickos really like about him. That's also just makes me so upset. Okay. Joshua McCabe, who is a Canadian academic, he studied welfare in the U.S. What about welfare reform? What about all these things like child tax credit and stuff? Why did that come about? The child tax credit, as we've discussed before, phases in benefits. Yeah. So poor families don't get don't get them. Okay. And he found out in his research, and this is the thing that just really drives the nail to me. He found out in his research that Bob Greenstein sent a letter or memo or whatever privately to Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton. I don't know. They were well, it was to Bill Clinton. Okay. Bill Clinton is president. They're doing the welfare reform shit.
Sure.
Starve the poor, starve the poor, starve the poor. And it should be noted, when they're starving the poor, you know who did just straight up leave the administration and do big media protest against them?
Oh, yeah.
The Children's Defense Fund people, the Edelmans.
Yeah.
They were like, fuck this. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. Now, Bob.
They pulled an Adam Driver.
Not Bob. Bob's still here with you.
Yeah.
My favorite archival find of all time was Bob Greenstein's private letter to incoming President Bill Clinton imploring him to make the child tax credit fully refundable, even if it meant making it smaller. Right? So we phase in. Right now we're phasing in on the poor, which means it's not refundable to poor people.
Yeah.
He says, make it refundable to poor people. So this is, let's get it to everyone. Let's get the poor kids on it as well. Maybe we phase it out on the rich, but the poor kids are going to get it too. Right? That's what he says to Bill Clinton. Note, in his public statements for years and years and years, he has been saying, we can't do full refundability. We got to phase in because Americans, they prize work and so on and so forth. Here he is privately recognizing, dude, you got to fully refund this.
Yeah.
Because you're just starving the poor if you don't fully refund it.
Yeah. Okay.
So privately, he realizes this.
Right.
And privately, he's pushing for this. Now, you might be like, oh, that's really clever. He's kind of giving cover publicly, but he's really working the insides with the knobs. He knows how the strings are pulled here in the D.C. You know? That's how you could view it. Except, Clinton didn't do it. And Josh McCabe goes, he still worked with Clinton when this was no longer an option. He still worked with it. What a great strategy, man. What a great plan that was. I'm going to go to him and say, dude, you can't be starving the poor. You got to include them in it. And when he goes, no, I'm going to just go ahead and starve the poor. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to still help him. I'm going to still help him starve the poor now. The Edelmans didn't do this.
No.
Edelmans didn't do this. The Children's Defense Fund people were like, fuck it. And they had a bad relationship with the Clintons for like 20 years after that.
The Clintons are,
the Children's Defense Fund was serious. Hell no. We're not doing this. Bob, no. Bob goes with it. But here's the cherry on top, okay? So we're in the mid-90s.
Yep.
He goes to Bill. He says, Bill, if you're going to do child tax credit, you got to make it fully refundable, and we're going to keep this private. Bill's like, nope. And he's like, okay. He goes to Hillary Clinton in 2016. This is one I could actually kind of see online publicly. In August of 2016, he puts out a paper at CBPP that says, and this is a groundbreaking paper. It gets, in the sort of welfare world, Bob Greenstein is calling for a fully refundable child tax credit. We know now from the research he was calling for that in the 90s, but never publicly.
Right.
Because he knows that's what you got to do. I've been calling for that for like 8-9 years, one of the only people for a long time. Now it's become a thing. People are for the full refundability. At the time,
I was on that for a while. Yeah.
I was the only one. Child allowance. Okay?
Yeah, we wrote on that together.
Now Bob is for it.
Oh,
the welfare god himself is for it. Okay? He puts it out August 2016. Come on, guys. Make this thing fully refundable, would you? Goes to Clinton. Hillary, my man, my woman, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think my man is an all-purpose.
Come on, make it fully refundable. Nope. She puts out a child tax credit plan that still phases in on the poor, which means it excludes the poor.
Trapezoidal.
Yes, it's a trapezoid, not fully refundable. And Bob puts out a paper literally the month after he had said, you've got to make it fully refundable. This is just sicko shit on the poor if you don't make it fully refundable. He's obviously trying to push them to make it refundable. That's who he's talking to.
Yeah.
They say, fuck you, we're not making it refundable. We got this new one that's still non-refundable. He then writes a piece being like, this is great. This child tax credit that Hillary did is great.
No.
Just a total repeat. You just did this 20 years later. What did you accomplish? What did you accomplish?
Bob, hold the line, man.
Bob. And it's like, this is a perfect encapsulation because this is the work from the inside bullshit. I'm going to build my cloud. I'm going to make these connections. And really, then I'll be in the room. And then I can... It's like, here is your moment. You spent 20 years at least wanting fully refundable child tax credit. You're nearing the end of your career, obviously.
Yeah.
You got Hillary there again. You've already done everything you can for Hillary. You sacrificed everything to be nice to the Clintons in the 90s when they were just gutting welfare.
Yeah.
When a lot of other people were like, fuck this, and just left, you were like, I'm here for you guys. You built that relationship. You held that relationship for decades. And then you're like, time to cash in.
Yeah, you saved up all that capital.
Time to cash in. Make it refundable, Hillary. And she's like, nope. And you're like, okay. This is your moment. This is your moment. 40 years. You could have said, look, if you don't make this fully refundable, right? Which no one even cares about. This is the crazy shit. You think Hillary Clinton's going to lose votes because she makes her child tax credit fully refundable instead of phasing in at a rate of 35%? No one knows what the fuck that even is. You're not going to lose any votes just because you're going to help the poor also while providing middle-class tax relief. You're not going to lose anything, right? This is your moment to be like, look, we've been playing this game forever. If you don't do this, I got an op-ed in the New York Times tomorrow about why you're starving the poor and what's the hell? What's the deal? You threaten that, and she probably goes along with it because she doesn't want that shit, and it really doesn't matter to her whether it's fully, this is like, that just is not a significant electoral thing, right? The poor people, take them or leave them. They don't really give a shit, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't pull it at that point, and you're like, a career just totally wasted. What did you accomplish above replacement? Because this is the other thing people want to, they'll be like, well, they did a lot of, good work and they were very helpful and, he was in the room and it's like anyone could have been in that room.
Yeah.
Anyone. Like what was the marginal thing that was accomplished? And it's like, it's nothing because every time someone pushes back, he just backs down.
It's rough. I mean, you hate to see.
And it's like.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. And it's like, this is just sick. And it's not just like a game, right? Like this is
it has real consequences.
Yes, the people are like going hungry. Little kids are like going homeless, and their brains are getting all scrambled up by poverty and deprivation, and you can't pull that off.
I mean, it's worth it to reflect on these careers and policy where, like you say, someone is trying to save up a lifetime's worth of social capital and goodwill so they can pull some kind of miraculous move, and then these politicians just blow them off because they're competing for the same donors these people
this is the excuse people give.
Yeah.
Right? Because I mean, I don't know. Obviously there are PPP related considerations here.
Yeah.
Because people will, PPP, the small size, has actually had a decent impact. I've gotten stuff on multiple presidential platforms. We've gotten bills introduced in Congress, bills introduced in state houses, all with an annual revenue that's less than a middle manager's salary at cap. Our whole revenue is less than one middle manager's salary at cap, and we've got stuff in presidential platforms, congressional platforms, bills, etc. Right? And, nothing has passed at this point, but we've done in the think tank world a lot of good things. And people, you interact with people, or you interact with people who watch this sort of think tank world, and there's this line in here that you're just supposed to like not be vocal, not like just kind of endure the fact that you can't get anything done, you can't push people, you can't, and like that's the smart thing. That's the I almost, there was even someone tweeted out something that was like, this is effective altruism at its finest.
Oh, no.
Because if you've ever looked into some of the effective altruism stuff, it's not just like, how many malaria nets is equal to how many tetanus shots kind of thing, which is actually, I think, kind of interesting. It's also like justifying going into professions and like really well, it would be ineffective to not be able to get in the room, and so you should compromise down. And actually the real altruism thing is to compromise down totally so that you can be there and maybe have a minor nudge, because isn't a minor nudge better than nothing, etc., etc.? Like that's like a major part of like how they boost up like professional class effective altruism. Don't worry, you're actually doing good by getting into the guts of the corporate law firm or whatever. But it's like, what could be more ineffective than Bob's altruism? He can't get the shit done. He doesn't get it done. He burrowed into the world of this in the exact way that everyone says that's the real, responsible, honest way. He built this institution and so on. And then after all those years, all those connections, being in the power seat, he couldn't even get the child tax credit fully refundable. Let alone a new program, paid leave, child care. We ain't got none of that yet.
Clinton's like,
we don't even have universal health care yet.
Nope.
And it's like, could you just maybe we're just talking about a relatively small percentage of the population. Could you just give them the child tax credit too? Nope. Well, good job. I'm glad that altruism sure was effective. What effectively you really wielded that altruism.
It's a lesson in the risks of saying, well, getting something is better than nothing. Because if you take that approach, which I think is the approach of people who say, for example, that, Warren's Medicare for All plan is better than Bernie's because it's more likely to succeed, and then you get something instead of nothing. They say the same about Buttigieg. It's like, yes, but if your approach in pushing for things is I'll accept something as long as I don't get nothing, you'll eventually get less and less.
You get literally nothing, right, which is what he got.
But you have put yourself in a psychological position where essentially whatever happens, as long as it's not worse than the status quo, you'll count as a win.
Right. Well, and the other
damaging for movements.
And yes. No, it gives you an excuse, and it also begs the question: what is your marginal effect on this?
Yeah.
It's not enough to say, I was the guy who signed the box.
Yeah.
Anyone could sign the box. The question is, what effect did you have?
Right.
If it weren't you in the room when they modestly expanded food stamps rather than creating like a negative income tax or something like that, it would have been someone else.
Right.
Like you were supposed to have, I think again about sports statistics, value above replacement. What are you doing that wouldn't be done by someone who could just replace you? Now, for a lot of people that, is always going to be zero. A lot of people, jobs are jobs a lot. But like in the advocacy space, that's what you're supposed to be aiming for.
Yeah.
Right? And what was it in your case? You don't think like little tweaks to women's infants and children would have occurred but for the $40 million a year CBPP?
Yeah. I mean, if that's what it takes, $40 million a year.
Shit, just put that into a charity fund.
Yeah.
How much money did CBPP blow through relative to the expanded size of the welfare state relative to the counterfactual? I mean, I'm not even sure it's a 1-to-1.
Yeah. No, it's very depressing, and I mean, I think that's part of what I admire so much about what you do at PPP is you're sort of beating against a strong tide.
At least try, man. At least try.
Yeah.
I have a lot more respect for the Edelmans than I have for Bob Greenstein in the 90s. And guess what? You could say, well, okay, the Edelmans, they got to they got to stroke their egos
they got to take a stand. But what did they change?
What did they do? What did Bob change?
Yeah.
Maybe if Bob had come out too, instead of defecting and be like, I'll work with you, like basically a scab, maybe something could have happened. You know,
that's the Bernie wager. right? Is that if enough of us get together and make a stand,
try. You got to at least put yourself out there and
because you're
try
guaranteed
to
a loss
resist.
in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, it's good from our organization, though. I mean, it's whatever. I don't want to be too negative on him, but I think the unqualified praise of what he accomplished in the worst period of welfare in the U.S. Is a little strange. And I get that he might have been a nice guy, and I get that he might have been well attended. And I'm not even saying that he was a sellout in the sense that he, wasn't presenting the views as it was. But he had bad politics. He went out of his way to critique better programs that we also then learn privately he acknowledges are better, but goes out publicly against them. That's sicko shit to me. So
it's a sicko shit is the ruling here on that one.